Okay, I've just watched the ITV debate between Boris Johnson and Jeremy Hunt, live streamed by LBC. I didn't see the debate directly, but I've just watched it live streamed by LBC. A few things I want to say before I get into this. In terms of the descriptions on my videos, you may notice a little bit less information. Partly that's because I'm having issues with my keyboard right now. It's very frustrating, just letters sticking and so on. So I'm limiting how much I write, and for the same reason, I'm restricting responses to comments. Maybe it's got dust in it. I don't know what it is, but yeah. So if I have brief descriptions on long videos, that's the reason why. Um, Just a piece of unrelated news, which I discovered today actually in the Times, and I hadn't heard about this. Ross Perot, the famous third party candidate in the 1992 US presidential election, has passed away at 89. Perot made history, didn't win any states, but he was a significant underdog. He scooped up, I believe it was 19 million votes in 1992. um, Eccentric figure, billionaire, uses his own money to fund his campaign. So he's passed away, and there was an obituary in the Times today. Okay, so to get into this debate, let me just first of all say Julie Etchingham, she moderated it for ITV. It was held in Salford, Greater Manchester. I think Julie Etchingham done a very good job. She was assertive. She'd done her homework. She was fair insofar as she wasn't siding with one candidate or the other. She put them both on the spot. She was assertive about keeping them on time, and all of that whilst not doing a paxman, i.e., not being an egomaniac. So I thought she'd done a very good job as moderator. Um, Half the debate was taken up by Brexit, and that's kind of not surprising. I'll look forward to the day when the B word is extinct in this country, but there you go. Okay, so Brexit was dominating the first part. I'm not going to talk at massive length about that, but I've been taking notes on the debates just for a few things to say. Um, Hunt was on the offensive from the start. Of course, Hunt has previously criticised Boris Johnson for not attending the previous scheduled debates, so this is the first head to head debate. Hunt was on the attack throughout. Overall, I think Hunt won. If I had to say who had the edge, I would say Jeremy Hunt. And if I was a Tory, I would definitely give my vote to Hunt. Although I'm not a Tory, and there are issues I have with both of them. But anyway, Hunt put it directly to Boris Johnson: if you don't deliver Brexit on October the 31st, will you resign? And Johnson kind of obfuscated that question, and Hunt, perhaps a little bit smarmily, said, I think it's a no. The attack strategy could work for Hunt, but it could also backfire. Some people might see it as a little pompous. I don't know. They might regard it, some Tory members might regard it as Jeremy Hunt trying to be the bad cop. Who knows? Um, Jeremy Hunt, though, did say that there are solid Brexiteers, Mark Francois, Steve Baker, Jacob Rees-Mogg, who he argues would be more likely to get Brexit with his plan. Here's the thing: I think that a lot of Brexiteers, and I was looking at the comments, a lot of them were saying Hunt's a Remainer, he can't be trusted, etc., etc. I think, frankly, there are some Remainers, some Brexiteers, who want everything sugar-coated. They just can't handle a politician saying there will be difficulties. They want everything sugar-coated. There was a bit in the debate where Johnson got applause when he said, I think it was, yeah, Hunt put it to him, you're peddling optimism. Johnson's response was, I think this country needs some optimism. That got applause. It's understandable to see why. I mean, he's right. We do need optimism. But I think Hunt was far better on detail. I think that Hunt is prepared to make unpopular decisions, and that is, in my view, somewhat admirable for a politician to do what you think is right rather than what is popular. I think Johnson is a pure populist. I think he will say anything to anyone to get their support. I have never seen Boris Johnson say to like a target audience, "No, I disagree with you. I'm not going to do that." I think he's a populist, and I think his larger than life personality is definitely an asset. But when he is put under a microscope, I don't know how much detail is actually there. I think Hunt is more substantial overall. That's not to say I'm totally uncritical of Hunt either, but I'll get into that. Um, Johnson, for example, has been very reluctant to even humor the idea that there might be a no deal. Now they both say they don't want it, but Hunt has been more realistic. He said there could be a no deal. One of the people in the audience who asked questions was a businessman, and Johnson was put on the spot about these sort of claims that it's highly unlikely that there would be a no deal Brexit. I haven't absolutely quoted every single statement made by both candidates here, but that's significant. Now, he said it's defeatist not to set a hard deadline. You don't want the EU to have an incentive. Jeremy Hunt's made a big thing about being an entrepreneur and being a negotiator, having extensive experience in negotiation. He may be slightly overtapping his own drum on the entrepreneur thing. I think it's valid, it's relevant, but I think he runs a risk of sounding like a broken record if he keeps pushing this line, this mantra. I was an entrepreneur. That's great, Jeremy, but it's about more than that. It's also about, I mean, that's good perhaps for business people, but I don't know how much that will appeal to the average voter. Um, so Johnson said it's defeatist not to set a hard deadline. I think Hunt made the valid point. If you take this attitude of if you take a ultra hard line approach, so will the EU. I mean, it's all very well saying, "Oh, we're going to be muscle flexing with the EU," but you don't negotiate by just going in bombastically and making demands. I think common sense dictates that is not a way to negotiate. Of course, you need to set clear red lines. You need to lay out that you're not going to be pushed around. But this idea a lot of Brexiteers have that we just go in and we make demands and Brussels is just going to go with that. I think it's astonishingly cavalier. And I think Hunt recognises that. He also made the point that we've had the debate about who voted leave, who voted remain. I totally understand leave people not trusting Hunt. I really do. And if Johnson wins, I would not at all be surprised because I think a lot of people won't trust someone who did vote remain to deliver this. But I'm not a Brexiteer, so I have the benefit of not seeing it through this kind of purity that a lot of Brexiteers have. Claire Foad just had a great piece in the Times recently. I like a lot of her articles, um, and she said, referring to the Anne Widdecombe thing, these purist Brexiteers are so they have such tunnel vision. They have such a hysterical notion of what is pure Brexit. Even Michael Gove was denounced as not a true Brexiteer. I mean, these people are losing all sense of rationality, whereby they're denouncing. It's almost like a McCarthyite thing where who's a Brexiteer and who's not, who's a real Brexiteer and who's not, and it's frankly becoming hysterical. Um, Now, Johnson made the point this is when it got a bit testy towards the end, this is why we should avoid these blue on blue clashes. I know what he means in terms of party unity, but I also think that to have a situation where you don't see both leading candidates head to head in this way, how can people rationally how can people really analyze how they perform under pressure if they are not putting each other on the spot? Now, it did get a bit rowdy at times. Julie Etchingham had to put her foot down and say, "Gentlemen, just stop talking over each other." It got a little bit messy at times, but I think fundamentally the debate format has its place. Um, yeah, the Times made a valid point, I think, in their post analysis, and they were fair. They gave both candidates both up points and down points. One of the things they said, though, was Johnson kind of got derailed beyond Brexit. He got points for Brexit, and he's always going to get points for Brexit because Brexiteers will obviously trust him overall more than Hunt. Although some people would like to see, they just don't trust any mainstream politician. One guy even said he wanted to see Farage in number 10, God forbid. There you go. So I think Johnson didn't have much weight beyond Brexit. That's what's appealing about Jeremy Hunt. This is a politician who has ideas beyond Brexit. I'm not sure Johnson does. I think Brexit is his kind of go to. Um, on one very important issue, this was a bit that stood out for me. On this whole issue with Sir Kim Darroch, I thought Hunt was far stronger. I thought Johnson came across as weak and frankly subservient to the American president. Hunt got the perfect balance. He said that there's times you have to be honest with your friends, and I made it clear to President Trump I thought his comments on Theresa May were unacceptable. Johnson is basically throwing Sir Ken Darroch under the bus. Sure, he's coming out with praise now that the man has resigned, but this is deeply troubling that, you would have a situation where a British Prime Minister would not back the people who are representing us around the world. That's not going to inspire much confidence in the Foreign Office. Um, Whatever people think about what happened, okay, maybe Hunt shares some culpability for security breaches, but I really think that Hunt handled that a lot better because he made the point I did criticize President Trump, and he also added that he stood up to the Chinese. He got a cheer for saying that he criticized President Trump. Johnson obfuscated. He did not really want to answer that question. He kind of waffled a bit about, oh, America is our close ally, and it's a pity that Trump was dragged into this. Trump dragged himself into this, right? Trump could have laughed it off. He could have been a statesman and laughed it off, but no, he got into a lot. He got into a bombastic insult match, and then he got into criticizing Theresa May, insulting Theresa May over what he felt was her bad handling of Brexit. Now Johnson had an opportunity to say, "I support President Trump, but I don't agree with him on that." Frankly, he came across as weak and subservient. Hunt came across as far stronger on that point. And I think the audience recognized that. Both of them were asked about personal feelings. So the issue of Nazanin Sargaya, the British woman who's held in Iran, came up against Johnson, and he made the point it's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard that are to blame for that. Um, with Hunt, it was a junior doctor strike, the first junior doctor strike in 40 years. Hunt previously said that he felt he could have communicated better. In another debate with the other candidates, he said he could have communicated his point better and been a bit more humble. I think that's the way he put it with the junior doctors. So they both. So I think Hunt, in that sense, at least in that previous debate, showed more humility. Johnson pointed out that he expanded the London living wage. On the issue of the wealth poverty gap, this was a big one because Jeremy Hunt claims that his whole life he's tried to refute the Tory image as being a party of the rich. However, he also stressed that he would cut corporation tax in order to, as he put it, expand the cake. A woman had asked about um, the most vulnerable in society, the most like people struggling to get by. Um, I think that both of them could have handled that a bit better. Hunt did get applause by pushing that Johnson hadn't answered his questions. I mean, Johnson's first policy decision when he announced his candidacy here was his policy statement was to lower the rate of tax for people earning 50,000 or more. Now, someone earning 50,000 isn't super rich, but they're definitely not poor, and they're definitely not on the margins of society. So I do not believe that Boris Johnson has people who are struggling uh, at his core. I don't believe either of them really do, to be honest. And the issue of universal credit came up. They both said they supported it. There wasn't much time to sort of go into the detail on that, but I frankly trust very, very, very few Tories when it comes to that issue. I think the Tory, I think it's callous. The way it's driven claimants literally to their deaths, the way it degrades people, the impact it has on mental health, the long waiting periods that claimants have to go through, the the way they're spoken down to, the threatening behaviour by the DWP. I don't trust any Tory to stand up for claimants. And this kind of go to, oh, it's helped people in the work. That ignores the fact that a lot of people have voluntarily signed off. I know this to be true because I've done it myself. Voluntarily signed off from claiming because they get so fed up of being treated like a criminal. I don't trust any Tory when it comes to that. I don't trust Jeremy Hunt. I don't trust Boris Johnson. And I do not believe that either really has the most vulnerable in our society at heart. I mean, Boris Johnson said he expanded the London living wage as mayor. Maybe he did, and I'll give him credit for that. But he also said that his Daily Telegraph salary was chicken feed. Okay, it was quite a long time ago he said that, but I think it taps into mentality. And I don't really believe either of these men, or frankly, almost any member of the Tory party. I won't generalise, I won't say everyone, but I don't really think any Tory really, in their hearts cares about the homeless or claimants. I'm not saying that they're totally callous, but I don't think that they really care. I think I just don't think they have the most vulnerable in society at heart. That's my gut feeling. And I'm not saying that as a socialist or some lefty. That's just my gut feeling. Both support high speed too, from London to Manchester. Both support social care. Jeremy Hunt backs the third runway. Like I say, they both support universal credit, which is not surprising but disappointing. They need to meet, and I don't mean to go on about this, but they need to meet the family, for example, of Stephen Smith, the man in Liverpool who took his own life, or rather who was hounded in the weeks before his death. He had terminal cancer, but the others have taken their own life. This is the way the DWP is treating people. I don't trust any Tory to change the callous attitude the DWP has. I don't trust a single leading Tory on that. I don't think they really give a damn about claimants. I think the Tories' mentality is, oh, well, if people are getting work, the ends justify the means. I think that's their attitude, and it's grotesque in my opinion, but that's that. Um, on the final pitches, they were